Captain Elena Reyes brushed a strand of dark hair from her face as the holographic display illuminated the bridge in a soft blue glow. The UES Pioneer had emerged from the wormhole only 6 hours ago, and already her crew was working overtime to process the astronomical data flooding their sensors. "Dr. Kim, please tell me I'm misinterpreting these readings," she said, gesturing to the energy signatures that surrounded them. Dr. Elias Kim, the ship's astrophysicist, adjusted his glasses and frowned at his console. "I wish I could, Captain. Those are definitely artificial structures. Massive ones. And the energy outputs are, well, they're beyond anything in our theoretical models." Lieutenant Sarah Wong's voice cut through the tension. "Multiple contacts approaching, Captain. Configuration unknown. Definitely not human." Her fingers danced across the tactical display, highlighting a dozen shimmering objects moving toward their position. "First contact protocols. Everyone." Reyes announced, straightening her uniform. "Let's make history without starting a war." What the humans couldn't know was that they had emerged into the most contested region of space in the galaxy, a narrow buffer zone separating two ancient civilizations that had been locked in a Cold War for over a millennium. The approaching vessels belonged to the Voidborn sovereignty, beings of pure energy who had transcended physical form centuries ago. Their scout ships appeared as pulsating purple orbs that seemed to phase in and out of reality as they moved. "They're scamming us," reported Commander Michael Okafor, the ship's science officer. "Intense energy patterns, unlike anything in our databases." "Open all non-military frequencies," Reyes ordered. "Standard greeting package, all languages." Before the communications officer could comply, the bridge filled with a harmonic resonance that seemed to bypass their auditory systems entirely. "We are Voidborn." The voice that wasn't a voice communicated directly into their minds. "You trespass in contested space. Identify your purpose or be neutralized." Across the buffer zone, in the crystalline command center of an Axiom monitoring station, Strategic Overseer Tillotson observed the unexpected development with equivalent parts of curiosity and alarm. "Magnify the unknown vessel," he instructed, his voice creating ripples through the living crystal of the chamber. The display shifted, revealing detailed scans of the Pioneer. "Biological entities," noted his second, Karvik, her crystalline form shifting to indicate surprise. "Using primitive fusion propulsion and metallic hull construction, yet they've achieved what should be impossible for their developmental stage." "The Voidborn are already making contact," Tillotson observed. "Dispatch the diplomatic vessel immediately. We cannot allow them to secure these newcomers' allegiance." Back aboard the Pioneer, Captain Reyes was attempting to establish a communication protocol with the Voidborn scouts when her tactical officer interrupted. "Captain, another contact approaching from the opposite direction. Much larger than the first group. Its energy signature is completely different, some kind of crystalline structure." Reyes exhaled slowly. "So much for a simple exploration mission. Looks like we've wandered into someone's backyard dispute." Within the nebulous consciousness cloud that served as the Voidborn command nexus, Void Sovereign Mix observed the situation with growing concern. The swirling patterns of their energy form accelerated as they processed the tactical implications. "These humans represent an incalculable variable. They communicated to the high oscillation. The Axiom will attempt to secure their allegiance. We must act quickly." "Their technology is primitive," responded Void General Zix. "They pose no military threat." "Their unpredictability is the threat," Mix corrected. "For the first time in 300,000 years, a factor exists that neither our strategic AAs nor the axioms can accurately model. That alone makes them valuable. As the massive Axiom diplomatic vessel approached from one direction and the Voidborn scouts maintained position from the other, Captain Reyes made a decision that would alter the course of 3 civilizations. "Looks like we're going to be entertaining guests," she told her officers with a wry smile. "Let's prepare a proper welcome and be ready for anything." Neither ancient power realized they had just made the same critical error, underestimating humanity's capacity to change the rules of a game they hadn't even known they were playing. The Axiom diplomatic vessel resembled a cathedral made of living crystal, its faceted surfaces catching starlight in mesmerizing patterns as it dwarfed the Pioneer. Captain Reyes observed it from the observation deck, trying to maintain a professional demeanor despite her awe. "It's beautiful," she admitted to Dr. Amara Okafor, the ship's diplomatic officer. "Beauty can be deceptive," Okafor replied, reviewing her notes. "Remember, they reached out to us minutes after detecting our presence. They want something." The conference room had been hastily prepared for the meeting. Additional environmental controls were installed to accommodate whatever biology the aliens might possess. Security protocols were reviewed and enhanced under Lieutenant Commander Jack Chen's watchful eye. "I don't like this," Chen muttered, checking the energy readings on his tablet. 2 advanced civilizations suddenly taking interest in us. We should retreat back through the wormhole until we better understand the situation. And miss humanity's first diplomatic engagement with not 1 but 2 advanced alien cultures. Reyes shook her head. "I didn't pilot humanity's first interstellar vessel to run at the first sign of complexity." A shimmer of light announced the arrival of Ambassador Cavex. The Axiom representative materialized in the center of the room, a humanoid figure composed of interlocking crystalline plates that shifted and realigned with each slight movement. No obvious eyes or mouth were visible, yet the humans felt observed. "Greetings, biological entities." Cavex communicated directly into their minds, bypassing the need for audible speech. "We welcome you to this sector and offer our protection." Captain Reyes stepped forward. "Thank you for your welcome, Ambassador. I am Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth ship Pioneer. We are peaceful explorers seeking knowledge and friendship." "Friendship is a concept we understand," Cavex responded, though the tone in their mental communication suggested otherwise. "However, you have emerged in disputed territory. The Voidborn are deceivers who will harvest your consciousness for processing power if given the opportunity. The crystalline being's form reconfigured slightly. We offer you protection and advancement. Your species appears to have achieved interstellar travel with remarkably primitive technology. Join us, and we will elevate your civilization with technology millennia beyond your current capabilities." Dr. Okafor noted that the Axiom representative made no inquiries about human culture, values, or interests. Their offer assumed human priorities aligned with their own. 3 days later, the Voidborn delegation arrived. Lord Oscillation Zix appeared as a miniature purple galaxy contained within an elegant mechanical frame. Small tendrils of energy reached out as they addressed the human delegation. "The Axiom would convert your people into extensions of their hive mind," Zix warned, their thoughts resonating with harmonic undertones that conveyed urgency. "They'd done it to 17 species before you, biological entities assimilated into their crystalline network." Zix's energy form pulsed dramatically. "We offer true partnership. 17 star systems for your exclusive development, in exchange for military assistance against the Axiom threat." That evening, in the privacy of her quarters, Captain Reyes reviewed recordings of both meetings with her senior staff. "Notice anything strange?" she asked. Neither of them asked a single question about us. They made assumptions and proceeded accordingly. "They're treating us like pawns," Chen observed. "Each wants to use us against the other." Dr. Okafor nodded. More importantly, both seem to be following predetermined diplomatic protocols. I suspect neither has encountered a truly new species in a very long time. Reyes leaned forward, eyes bright with inspiration. "That gives us an advantage they haven't calculated. We'll invite both delegations back simultaneously." Our announcement was met with stunned silence. "Captain," Chen finally managed, "placing two hostile powers in the same room could trigger the very war they've been avoiding for a millennium." Reyes smiled. "Exactly. And that fact gives us leverage neither of them has calculated. They're so focused on their ancient conflict that they've forgotten how to innovate. We'll introduce a variable their strategic models can't account for: human unpredictability." As the invitations were transmitted to both delegations, neither ancient power realized they were about to confront something their civilizations had engineered out of themselves ages ago. Surprise. The Pioneer's largest cargo bay had been hastily converted into a conference chamber. The Axiom delegation occupied one side, their crystalline bodies refracting light in complex patterns that seemed to communicate on wavelengths human senses couldn't perceive. The Voidborn representatives hovered on the opposite side, their energy forms contained in elegant mechanical constructs that occasionally emitted harmonic tones. The tension between them was palpable. According to historical records each delegation reluctantly provided, these powers hadn't met in direct negotiation for over 3 centuries. Captain Reyes entered last, flanked by Dr. Okafor and Lieutenant Commander Chen. She wore her formal dress uniform, a calculated decision to emphasize humanity's military capability while maintaining diplomatic protocol. "Distinguished representatives," she began, her voice steady and confident. "Thank you for accepting our invitation. This meeting represents a historic opportunity." Ambassador Kvex's crystalline form shifted to what the humans had learned to recognize as a defensive configuration. "We agreed to this irregular arrangement out of respect for your species' developmental potential, Captain. However, we maintain that private negotiations would be more productive." "We concur." Surprisingly, Lord Oscillation Zix's energy form pulsed. The Axiom's presence inhibits candid discussion. Captain Reyes paced slowly between the delegations. "For 1,000 years, you've been trapped in a strategic prison of your own making. Your civilizations have become so predictable to each other that neither can act without the other anticipating it." She activated a holographic display in the center of the room. "We've analyzed the military movements of both your civilizations over the past century based on the data you shared. Your fleet deployments follow patterns so regular they could be set to music." Lieutenant Commander Chen stepped forward. "Watch as we compress 100 years of your military positions into a time-lapse simulation." The hologram showed thousands of ship movements across the buffer zone, flowing like dancers in a precisely choreographed ballet. When translated into sound, they produced a haunting, predictable melody. "This is absurd," Kvex protested. "Our strategic algorithms calculate billions of variables." "Yet they all produce the same result," Chen countered. "Because both sides are using nearly identical logical frameworks. You've optimized yourselves into stagnation." Dr. Okafor added, "From our perspective as newcomers, it's clear that your war preparations have become ritual, not strategy. You're locked in patterns neither side can break." Lord Oscillation Zix's energy form flickered with what the humans had learned to recognize as agitation. "Your species has existed for a mere eye blink. What could you possibly teach civilizations that have weathered the death and rebirth of stars. How to end wars? Rias replied simply, something your species have forgotten. She gestured, and a new hologram appeared, Earth's military history, compressed into a similar time-lapse. Unlike the alien patterns, human conflicts showed chaotic innovation, unpredictable alliance shifts, and most importantly, numerous instances where bitter enemies eventually became allies. Humans have fought countless wars, Chen explained, but we've also ended them. Sometimes through victory, sometimes through compromise, sometimes through transformation of the underlying conflict. Reyes leaned forward. We've reviewed both your offers of alliance against the other. We find them equally unacceptable. Her statement triggered simultaneous defensive reactions from both delegations. Instead, she continued as the protests subsided. We propose a third option. We will serve as neutral mediators to help end your millennium-long conflict. The chamber fell silent. For the first time in their long histories, both ancient powers found themselves speechless as they confronted something their civilizations had engineered out of themselves ages ago. A genuine surprise. Impossible, both delegations declared simultaneously, then paused, disturbed by their synchronicity. Rias smiled. The fact that you both immediately rejected the proposal using identical language proves our point. You've become mirrors of each other, locked in symmetrical opposition. She leaned forward. What if the truly strategic move is the one neither of you can predict? What if cooperation yields better outcomes than conflict? The crack in the ancient standoff widened just a fraction more. While negotiations continued aboard the Pioneer, humanity's small exploration fleet arrived through the wormhole. Admiral Helena Vostok stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Intrepid, surveying the tactical displays with a practiced eye. Grey streaks in her close-cropped hair betrayed her age, but her posture remained ramrod straight, a testament to decades of military discipline. Quite the hornet's nest you've stirred up, Elena, she remarked during a secure transmission to Captain Reyes. It gets more interesting, Reyes replied, her image flickering slightly on the view screen. Dr. Kim has discovered something neither the Axiom nor Voidborn detected. The transmission shifted to show Dr. Elias Kim, the Pioneer's brilliant but socially awkward astrophysicist. Dark circles under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept in days. Admiral, we've identified an anomaly within the buffer zone, Kim explained, sending data packets alongside the transmission. Initial scans suggest it contains exotic particles with properties unlike anything in human scientific records. The display showed a region of seemingly empty space that, when viewed through specific sensor filters, revealed a swirling golden pattern hidden within the fabric of reality itself. Their sensors should be 1,000 times more sensitive than ours, Kim continued. Yet they missed this completely. I believe it responds specifically to organic neural patterns, something both civilizations abandoned centuries ago in favor of synthetic or energy-based consciousness. Admiral Vostok immediately grasped the strategic implications. So we've stumbled upon something only humans can fully detect and potentially use. Exactly, Reyes confirmed. And I'm betting it's important enough to change the balance of power. Within hours, Vostok had positioned her small fleet around the anomaly in a defensive formation. Though modest compared to the massive warships of either ancient power, the human vessels took up positions with precision that would have impressed even the most critical alien observer. The response was immediate. Long-range sensors detected massive energy surges as both civilizations activated dormant battle groups. Warships from both the Axiom and Voidborn altered course toward the human fleet. They're taking the bait, Vostok noted with grim satisfaction. How's the second phase progressing? Captain Reyes checked her secured tablet. Right on schedule. Dr. Okafor's team has established unofficial communication channels with civilian populations in both empires. We're bypassing their military and governmental hierarchies completely. While the military tension escalated in space, something unprecedented was happening throughout both empires. Small teams of human communication specialists had made contact with ordinary citizens, sharing human cultural artifacts. Music, art, literature, philosophy, ideas unconstrained by the rigid thought patterns that dominated both civilizations. On the crystalline homeworld of the Axiom Collective, a low-ranking processor named Tiller found herself absorbed in human poetry. The chaotic yet beautiful patterns awakened neural pathways long dormant in her crystalline matrix. Secretly, she began creating unauthorized simulations that incorporated human unpredictability. The results shocked her. Peace became a viable outcome when irrational human behavior was factored into the equations. Within the consciousness clouds of the Voidborn domain, a young energy entity designated Pulse 7 discovered human music. The seemingly random arrangements of tones produced emotional responses that rippled through the collective consciousness in ways their precisely calibrated harmonics never had. Captain Reyes watched status updates from these cultural initiatives with growing satisfaction. The military confrontation is just distraction, she explained to her senior staff. Our real strategy is mimetic infection. Chen raised an eyebrow. Biological warfare. Cultural exchange, Reyes corrected. We're introducing something both civilizations engineered out of themselves millennia ago, creativity. While their military forces focus on our fleet, their populations are experiencing human art, music, and philosophy. Ideas that evolve rather than calculate. As military tensions escalated in space, humanity's most powerful weapon was already deployed. Not advanced technology, but the chaotic, beautiful unpredictability of human expression. The view screen on the Intrepid's bridge displayed an intimidating sight. The approaching war fleets of both ancient powers. The Axiom vessels resembled geometric sculptures carved from living crystal, beautiful and terrible in their precision. The Voidborn ships seemed to phase between dimensions, their purple energy signatures warping the fabric of space itself around them. We have 30 minutes before they're in weapons range, Lieutenant Sonia Parker reported, her dark skin glistening with sweat despite the environmental controls. Our shields won't last 5 seconds against either fleet. Admiral Vostok remained calm, hands clasped behind her back as she studied the tactical display. They won't fire, at least not immediately. Both sides want the anomaly more than they want us dead. Multiple communication requests coming in, the communications officer announced. Both fleets are demanding we withdraw from the anomaly. Let them wait, Vostok replied. Maintain position and alert status. Suddenly, the tactical officer straightened in her chair. New contacts, Admiral. Reading thousands of small vessels approaching from multiple vectors. The view screen shifted to show an astonishing sight. Civilian ships from both empires moving to position themselves between the war fleets and the human vessels. The smaller craft varied wildly in design, crystalline structures from the Axiom territories and energy-containing vessels from Voidborn space, but they shared one commonality. None were military in nature. They're forming a barrier, Parker whispered in disbelief. They're protecting us. Aboard the Axiom command ship, First Resonator X-Trowel received reports of unprecedented civilian interference. His crystalline form vibrated with frequencies that his subordinates recognized as extreme agitation. "Order them to disperse," he commanded, his thoughts reverberating through the ship's crystal matrix. "They refuse, First Resonator," his subordinate reported, projecting uncertainty. "They cite human philosophical concepts about individual agency and claim authority to negotiate on behalf of the collective." "Impossible," Ixtrol responded. "Civilians have never defied military directives before. These humans have corrupted our collective harmony." Across the buffer zone, Void Sovereign Nyx faced similar rebellion. Her energy form pulsed erratically as she processed reports from her fleet commanders. "The dissenters claim inspiration from human artistic expressions," her advisor reported. "They're broadcasting what they call music throughout the fleet. It's causing emotional resonance." As both military commanders hesitated, caught between their strategic objectives and the unprecedented civilian interference, Admiral Vostok received a transmission from Captain Reyes. "Perfect timing," Reyes noted with satisfaction. "The cultural initiative worked even better than we expected. Time for the next phase." Vostok opened simultaneous communication channels to both fleets. "Attention Axiom and Voidborn command vessels. This is Admiral Helena Vostok of Earth. Your civilian population isn't rebelling, they are evolving. For millennia, you've optimized your societies for an inevitable conflict. But what if your core assumption was wrong?" The transmission shifted to Dr. Kim, who stood beside a holographic representation of the anomaly. "We've partially decoded the anomaly's signature," he explained, his voice steady despite the stakes. "It's not a weapon or power source. It's a communication node left by a precursor civilization, and it requires cooperation to access." The revelation sent shockwaves through both command structures. If true, it would mean millennia of military preparation had been based on a fundamental misunderstanding. "You expect us to trust each other after 1,000 years of hostility?" demanded Ixtrol, his crystalline voice sharp with skepticism. "No," Admiral Vostok replied, her weathered face filling the view screen. "We expect you to trust us, the neutral third party with nothing to gain from your destruction." For a moment, the future of three civilizations hung in balance. Then, almost simultaneously, energy readings from the weapons systems of both fleets began to diminish. For the first time in recorded history, the war fleets of the Axiom and Voidborn powered down their weapons arrays without first securing advantage. Not because their strategic AIs recommended it, but because human unpredictability had introduced a variable neither could calculate: hope. The UES Pioneer approached the golden swirl of the anomaly, its modified sensors recording data that defied conventional physics. The ship had been retrofitted with equipment from both the Axiom and Voidborn, a physical manifestation of the unprecedented cooperation between the three species. Captain Reyes stood on the bridge, flanked by Ambassador Kavex of the Axiom and Lord Oscillation Zix of the Voidborn. Despite the momentous occasion, tension remained palpable. Millennia of distrust couldn't be erased in days. "Final approach," announced the helmsman, her voice steady despite the pressure. "Anomaly perimeter in 30 seconds. All sensors active," Dr. Kim confirmed from the science station. "We're getting 3 completely different readings based on which technology we use." Reyes turned to her alien guests. "What do your systems show you?" Kavex's crystalline form shifted slightly. "Our sensors detect complex crystalline lattices, similar to our own consciousness matrices, but far more advanced." Curious, Zix's energy form pulsed. "Our instruments register dimensional gateways, tunnels between realities that resemble our own neural pathways. Yet our human equipment picks up patterns similar to organic neural activity, Kim added, his excitement barely contained. 3 different perceptions of the same phenomenon. In a laboratory specially modified to accommodate all 3 species, Kim had constructed an interface unlike anything attempted before, a 3-way neural connection that would allow representatives of each civilization to jointly experience the anomaly. This is unprecedented. Zix's energy form fluctuated with concern. Our consciousness structures are fundamentally incompatible. They shouldn't be, Dr. Okafor noted, making final adjustments to the interface. According to your own historical records, both your species evolved from organic origins before transcending your biological limitations. The fundamental neural patterns should retain similarities. Kvex moved closer to the equipment, crystalline fingers tracing its contours. You propose something no simulation could have predicted, that our ancient divergence could be bridged by your primitive organic minds. Exactly, Riaz replied with a smile. Sometimes the most elegant solution comes from the least expected source. As technicians made final adjustments, Lieutenant Commander Chen addressed the security concerns. This isn't just a scientific breakthrough, it's an act of unprecedented trust. Each of you will be vulnerable during the connection. Despite warnings from their governments, both alien representatives agreed to proceed. Captain Reyes took her position between them. Whatever we find in there, we find together. The neural link activated. A gentle hum filled the laboratory as 3 consciousness structures, crystal, energy, and organic, synchronized for the first time in galactic history. The ship's crew watched anxiously as the 3 representatives went rigid, their awareness seemingly elsewhere. Minutes stretched into an hour. Medical officers monitored Reyes' vital signs, which fluctuated wildly but remained within safe parameters. Then, simultaneously, all 3 gasped as they returned to awareness. Reyes' eyes snapped open, filled with wonder and what might have been tears. "We saw it," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. The Gateway Network. Thousands of anomalies, Kvex confirmed, their crystalline structure vibrating with frequencies no one aboard had witnessed before, the axiom equivalent of excitement. Connected across the galaxy. Leading to a community of civilizations, Zix added, their energy form glowing with unprecedented brightness, all of whom passed the same test we just did. The demonstration had achieved what a millennium of diplomacy could not, a shared experience that transcended species barriers. The anomaly had revealed glimpses of a future where cooperation led to discoveries beyond anything possible through conflict. More importantly, it had required the unique perspectives of all 3 species to unlock. The precise logic of the axiom, the dimensional awareness of the Voidborn, and the emotional intuition of humans. It's a test, Reyes explained to her crew afterward. One designed to ensure that only civilizations capable of true cooperation could access whatever lies beyond. For the first time in recorded history, the ancient adversaries shared not just information, but genuine understanding. The space station Independence hung in orbit around a previously contested planet in the buffer zone. Its design reflected the combined architectural sensibilities of all 3 civilizations. Human pragmatism in its functional layout, axiom geometric precision in its structural elements, and voidborn dimensional fluidity in its energy systems. Inside its central chamber, delegates from Earth, the Axiom Collective, and the Voidborn sovereignty gathered for an historic occasion. Holographic drones broadcasted the proceedings to trillions of beings across all 3 civilizations. Admiral Vostok, now serving as Earth's ambassador, stood at the central podium. Her dress uniform gleamed under the soft lights, medals reflecting her long service to humanity. 1 year ago we were strangers, she addressed the assembly, her strong voice carrying through the chamber. Today, we lay the foundation for a shared future. The tripartite accord displayed on massive screens throughout the chamber, its text the product of months of intensive negotiation. It consisted of 3 major provisions. The buffer zone would be transformed into a jointly governed cooperative region. A combined scientific initiative would explore the gateway network, and cultural exchange programs would facilitate understanding between their peoples. Ambassador Tiller represented the Axiom. Once a low-ranking processor who had embraced human creative thinking, she had risen rapidly through the hierarchy as the collective structure evolved in response to human influence. For millennia, we pursued perfection through calculation. She acknowledged, her crystalline form shimmering with subtle patterns. We had forgotten that diversity of thought leads to evolutionary advantage. Humans reminded us of this essential truth. Pulse 7, now elevated to Harmony Coordinator within the Voidborn hierarchy, added, we perceived our differences as fundamental incompatibilities. Now we understand they are complementary strengths. Where the Axiom bring precision, humans bring adaptability, and we contribute dimensional perspective. Not everyone embraced the new paradigm. Captain Reyes, observing from the Earth delegation, studied the security reports on her tablet. Radical factions within both ancient empires considered cooperation a betrayal of their fundamental values. Several Axiom battle groups had gone rogue rather than stand down. A segment of the Voidborn consciousness cloud had isolated itself, rejecting the new harmonics. On Earth, protesters gathered outside government buildings, questioning the wisdom of aligning with such powerful alien civilizations. Their concerns weren't unfounded. Humanity was the technological infant in this arrangement, potentially vulnerable to exploitation. Dr. Okafor addressed these concerns during the ceremony. Throughout human history, we feared the unknown, yet always found greater danger in isolation than engagement. Today, we don't just gain allies, we gain teachers, students, and friends. As the 3 leaders pressed their palms, or equivalent appendages, to the ceremonial signing crystal, a soft chime resonated throughout the station. The gateway anomaly in nearby space pulsed in response, as if acknowledging the historic moment. The gateway responds. Pulse 7 noted, energy tendrils extending in surprise. It recognizes our accord. Dr. Kim, monitoring from the science station, confirmed, energy signature is changing. New pathways are opening within the network. Admiral Vostok smiled, a rare expression for the typically stoic officer. It seems the test continues. Cooperation was just the first step. As celebrations erupted across 3 civilizations, work began on the first joint mission through the gateway. A new vessel, incorporating technology from all 3 species, prepared for its journey beyond known space. Its name, suggested by a child during an Earth naming contest and embraced by all 3 powers. Possibility. Captain Reyes had been offered command of this unprecedented expedition. As she reviewed the crew manifest, an equal mix of humans, Axiom, and Voidborn, she reflected on how far they'd come in a single year. From the brink of war to the threshold of discovery, she murmured to herself. Not bad for a species that's existed for a mere eye blink. The possibility hovered before the now stabilized gateway, its hull gleaming with the integrated technologies of 3 civilizations. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge, the captain's insignia freshly added to her uniform. Around her, the mixed crew worked with growing familiarity, humans with their adaptability, Axiom with their precision, and Voidborn with their dimensional perception. Final checks complete, announced Commander Chen, now her first officer. His expression remained serious, but there was an undeniable excitement in his eyes. All systems optimal. The gateway is responding to our combined signatures, reported Tyler from the science station. The Axiom scientists' crystalline form shifted in patterns that the human crew had learned to recognize as enthusiasm. Pathways are appearing throughout the network. Dr. Kim's theories had been proven correct. The gateway required the combined neural patterns of all three species to fully activate. As the possibilities sensors mapped the network, they discovered thousands of similar nodes throughout the galaxy, a transportation system that had remained invisible to any single species. We're receiving a transmission from within the gateway. Pulse 7's energy form brightened at the communications station. Multiple species, unified communication protocol. Reyes straightened her uniform. On screen, the view screen came to life, displaying representatives of dozens of civilizations, some recognizably biological, others as exotic as the Axiom or Voidborn. Their apparent spokesperson, a being of swirling light and shadow, addressed them. "Welcome, Triad of the Milky Way," the entity greeted them. "We have observed your 3 worlds for millennia, waiting for this moment of union. You've been watching us." Reyes asked, maintaining her composure despite her surprise. "The conflict that divided you was the final test," the being explained. "A crucible requiring a catalyst to transform conflict into cooperation. In your galaxy, humanity provided that catalyst, the missing element needed to bridge ancient divisions." Dr. Okafor stepped forward. "You engineered this situation, the 1,000-year Cold War. We merely observed. The patterns of conflict are universal, but so too are the paths to transcending them. Throughout the galaxy, civilizations fall into symmetrical opposition. Some remain locked in that pattern until mutual destruction. Others find their catalyst, the spark that breaks the pattern. As the possibility crossed the threshold into the gateway network, the crew witnessed breathtaking vistas of stars and nebulae from perspectives impossible in normal space. The network connected regions thousands of light years apart, making the galaxy itself accessible in ways none had imagined. "We invite you to join the Galactic Concord," the representative continued. "Each member civilization brings unique perspectives and abilities. Together, we explore mysteries beyond what any single species could comprehend." As diplomatic connections formed with this vast community, the implications spread through all 3 societies. What had once seemed inevitable, destruction, had been transformed into something none could have predicted, belonging. 1 year later, at a ceremony commemorating the anniversary of their journey through the gateway, a journalist asked Admiral Reyes what quality had allowed humanity to succeed where others had failed. "We were too inexperienced to know what was impossible," Reyes smiled, glancing at her Axiom and Voidborn colleagues. "In the face of a problem with no solution, we simply invented one." Tulara's crystalline form shimmered in what had become recognizable as laughter. "Humans taught us that predictability, while efficient, creates blind spots. Their chaotic thinking illuminated paths invisible to our precise calculations." Pulse 7 pulsed in agreement. "They showed us that the universe is not a battlefield to be conquered, but a mystery to be explored together." Across 3 civilizations and beyond, beings raised their voices, glasses, energy fields, and crystalline resonators in appreciation of the sentiment that had changed the course of galactic history. Humans didn't accept the inevitable, they changed it.